Hey guys, how's it going? Companion. Today I want to review some more Hearthstone cards from the upcoming expansion from the Grand Tournament. A lot of people ask me, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So this will be kind of a regular thing as the cards roll out, and they are rolling out at a pretty high speed. Some of them are being released in like different languages, that kind of stuff. So, some of these may not be exactly as they turn out because some of them are, I think, are like card generators using approximate translations. But still, it's pretty cool to get an idea about what's coming out and see what kind of game we'll be playing shortly, I suppose. So the first one here we have the Garrison Commander, the 2-mana 2/3 that allows you to play your hero power twice on your turn. And this is a card that I kind of referenced a little bit in one of the earlier videos. In one of my earlier videos, I talked about what would happen if you could use your hero power all the time, and that would be kind of the situation that I kind of framed other cards into. And I understand Coldara Drake, which literally allows you to do that, is a mage-only card. I get that, but I just suspected that Blizzard will have many different types of scaling mechanics for your hero power throughout this expansion because that's literally what they're really trying to push. So Garrison Commander does just that. 2-mana 2/3 is okay in terms of stats. You really can't expect more than that for a 2-drop, otherwise it would be, well, pretty broken. The card seems pretty fair. If I had this guy in Arena, I'd be pretty happy. There's certainly some really terrible epic cards in Arena that you can pick from. In Constructed, though, if you're playing the really heavily hero power oriented decks, which, see, I think people are going to try these. Whether it's actually going to work, I don't know. But we kind of saw this effect in Blackrock Mountain. Dragons, turns out they suck. But it didn't stop people from trying, and for some time, week 2, we actually had a meta game that kind of was, mid-range, dragon-ish type of decks. And this is artificial. It wasn't because they were good cards. It wasn't because Blizzard, changed the meta by putting out new cards that were good. Is because they were just new, so people wanted to play them. They expected they would be alright, because why would Blizzard go into the effort of making an expansion if the cards just sucked? Well, I still don't really understand that, but that's basically what happened. There's certainly some really good cards in Blackrock Mountain, but dragons, the main theme, were not those. So, I don't know. So far, it doesn't seem like this Inspire mechanic, this use your hero power a bunch of times for value, it doesn't seem like that's actually going to take over the game. So, yeah. I don't know if it's actually going to be good. And if that's not good, obviously a card like Garrison Commander is going to be abysmal in Constructed. The idea of this card, for him to actually be relevant, you kind of want to play him when you have 6 or more mana, so you could play him and then actually hero power twice. And hopefully that affects your board if you have some other Inspire minions already on the board that survived from the turn before. But if you're in that position, kind of want already. So, yeah, it's a fast card built for a slow deck. So it's just odd. It's cool, it's combo-y, but it's odd. We might be seeing some slow plays, we might be seeing some like slow decks, that kind of stuff, but it'll just be because people want to try out these cards. They want to try decks with the Inspire mechanic, and, well, at least I'm going to have some fun while that happens. Speaking of fun, we have another legendary, the Justicar True Heart. This is a really interesting legendary. 6 mana 6/3 is terrible. It'll basically die to anything, so the stats are just bad. There's really no way around that. It alters your hero power permanently, and there is some details, there's some clarification. If you already have a hero power that's better than the base hero power, so let's say you are Jaraxxus, and you can summon 6/6 Infernals, this little guy will not overwrite your awesome hero power with the junk one. But they're still a little bit better than the normal ones. So what are they? We'll just go through each one, and you can kind of see how these scale with each of the different classes. So we have Druid, we have the Dire Shapeshift. So your Shapeshift, instead of doing 1 damage, 1 armor, you get 2 attack and 2 armor. That's really cool, actually. You go from a 2 damage swing to a 4 damage swing, and this can kind of help out a lot in the marginal situation. Helps you kill creatures a little bit better, helps you survive in the game a little bit better. I kind of like the Druid one. I think it works pretty well with the Druid hero power. The Hunter one, as you can see, not all hero powers were improved equally. Instead of completely doubling the effect, thankfully they didn't do that. Hunters basically gets screwed. The 2 damage hero power becomes 3 damage, which is pretty bad because, like, what are you going to do? Play this guy on turn 8 and then use hero power? You're probably going to play him on turn 6 and then hero power from that stage in the game. And if you're doing that, you have to hero power like 3 times more to really break even. You have to hero power probably much more than that for it to actually be worth it. So, it's just garbage for Hunter. For Mage, again, pretty good scaling. It doubles the damage of the regular hero power, so it's like +1 permanently. That's all right. That kind of works. Obviously, it's not 100% efficiency in a lot of these cases because, well, often you do use your hero power to just, kill something that has 1 health. So if your hero power does 2 damage and you kill something that has 1 health, it doesn't actually matter that you played this card. So, it's really difficult to gauge. Even though they double the effect literally, it's like you have to account for overkill damage, you have to account for how the numbers work out in a lot of cases, and really you probably have to use a hero power like 4+ times for it to actually be worth it. For Paladins, you summon 2 1/1s. Again, with Paladins, you only have 7 minions on your board, so if your opponent's doing very little, or just playing big stuff that you can't deal with, this hero power doesn't really scale that well either. Priest turns your 2 heal into a 4 heal. Again, doubling, but again, yeah, you might heal yourself for 4, but, what creature is going to require 4 healing like turn after turn? You're going to have a lot of overhealing in this situation. Rogue probably gets the worst improvement of them all, but I mean, you basically have the worst hero power in an expansion that tries to have you hero power every single turn already. So I guess if you're a rogue, you just, forget about the expansion for now. But if you do want to put this card in your deck, you'll be summoning 2 daggers instead of 1 2 daggers, which seems pretty horrible. I think they probably should just made it like, like a 3/1 weapon. Would have been pretty cool. You can actually do that every turn. And if you put this card in Rogue, you're probably using Inspire Mechanics. Well, that would actually make sense. So, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I think a 3/1 weapon would have been the way to go. So, yeah, a bit sad. And then we have Shaman Totemic Slam. You can summon a totem of your choice. Again, like, does that really matter? Not really. No, I don't think so. So that kind of really sucks. For a Warlock, you still just draw 1 card, but you don't take the 2 damage. Again, that just kind of sucks. Taking 2 damage just really doesn't mean anything. Games aren't really won from that. They're won from like tempo plays, combo plays, really, really high pushes. And this is none of those things. So, yeah. Then we have Tank Up, the Warrior hero power, gain 4 armor. I think the Warrior one is probably the most relevant. 1, it's one you can spam indefinitely. 2, you get actual full scaling. I mean, with Mage, you get the overkill sometimes, that kind of stuff. With Warrior, you always just get armor. Armor. Sometimes it's just like too much armor. But sometimes I feel the Justicar might just fit into like a control warrior deck. If other decks are fairly aggressive and actually requires you to armor up a lot to beat them, this card might be pretty good. I cannot say that it is like an auto-include in like control warrior decks. I think it's going to be very far from that. But I think it's an option. I think under some possible metagames, it will be a good option. We have King's Defender. This is a warrior weapon. Warriors already have a lot of weapons, and they don't need a pretty crappy one, which this is. 3 mana, 3/2 weapon, and it gains a durability if you have another taunt creature in play, for each taunt creature in play. So I guess if you have 7 taunts in play, this is a 3/9 weapon for 3 mana. Does that really matter? It's alright. Yeah, it's alright when it's like totally crazy, I suppose. And that kind of just proves that it's pretty much junk. Weapons are generally used like, I'll play a weapon against nothing when I have nothing to kill your stuff. So they play something, I'll play a weapon, kill that stuff. You don't really ever use a weapon when you already have taunts on the board. It doesn't really work out that way most of the time. So it just, I don't know. It seems kind of crappy overall. I don't even. It's just not good enough. That's it. Maybe if it was a 3 mana 3/3, that you would then get durability. But it just seems pretty underwhelming. Even so, in Arena, while like hunter weapons and maybe weapons from other classes might kind of work out, warriors generally have some of the best weapons, and you can't just use all the weapons you like in the same deck. You kind of have to make some compromises. So if I have two of these weapons, but I really want King's Defender as well, you'd have to take out one of the other weapons. Is it better than the other weapons? Right now, no, it doesn't seem like it is. But I guess if there's some super cool anti-aggro taunt creatures, then maybe, but I still have extreme doubts that's ever going to be the case. We have North Sea Kraken. Huge creature. It's the main uniqueness about this card is that it's really big and is common. So it's kind of cool. When I see like cards coming through, I kind of want like the really big cards to be common because they're gonna be like basically unplayable anyway. I want the legendaries to be at least like mid-game type of stuff, the epics to be like mid-game type of stuff. So I'm kind of glad that we're realizing this. North Sea Kraken overall is pretty garbage. Battle card deal 4 damage. It's basically like a jumbo fire elemental, but that's really not very good because 9 mana makes it so you can't really play it with anything else. Still, though, in Arena, the biggest dude generally just wins the brawl. This guy is one of the biggest dudes, so in Arena, this card is going to be excellent. But in Constructed, it's just not good enough. There's so many slow creatures that work. Like, you get Ragnaros to deal 8 damage. Yeah, there's going to be some overkill sometimes, but it's more threatening. It's, you can push a lot more. I don't know. North Sea Kraken is just a bit underwhelming. Yeah. There's a high competition for high mana cards right now, and the main problem they all have is they are high mana cards, so they really need to be completely broken to be even remotely viable. We have Sacred Warrior, priest only, 4-drop, 3/5 is pretty fair stats, not the best, but the ability makes it so whenever a heal triggers on a character, it gains 2 attack, so it's basically like Light Warden. And Light Warden's a pretty nice card in Priest. You essentially play it with Light with the Naru, which is kind of like a way better version of Light Warden. The main difference is that it doesn't actually matter with the attack much. You kind of just have to think about it like defense. So when you play Light of the Naru or Light Warden, its defense is 3 attack, because you usually heal when you play it, and 2 toughness. And if it survives a turn, well, the beatdowns are going to start. With Sacred Warrior, it's much less of an efficient card. The attack is just its defense against creatures that try to attack into it. But at 4 mana, you don't really have to play this and heal. You can just play this. It might defend itself with that attack, and it has 5 health. So if you can play this card and it sticks on the board, it's, totally insane. It just feels like that might not really happen. If the game slows down, Priest will already be really good, and this card will kind of push him a bit over the top. So if we have a slow meta, it might be artificially created at the start of the launch of the Grand Tournament expansion. But if we have that, this card might actually see some play in Constructed. But, of course, the card is absolutely batshit crazy for Arena. It might just be one of the best cards available to Priest, and I look forward to playing with it there. We have the Silver Hand Regent, 3 mana, 3/3 neutral, and the Inspire effect. Again, Inspire triggers when you play your hero power. You get a 1/1 Silver Hand Recruit, which is pretty interesting because it allows all the classes to get dudes, and it allows Paladin to get more dudes. And dudes are pretty good in Paladin. There's some synergy. There's the Quartermaster, and there's a few other things. The card doesn't seem that great, but again, the more and more cards that are just, even if they're just slightly underwhelming, if this card's kind of in that bucket, it's not, it's like average-ish, and average is bad in Hearthstone. There's enough cards where average means the card sucks. So this card by itself kind of sucks. If you're a Paladin, you can play this on turn 5, and hero power, you have, a 3/3 and 2 1/1s for 5 mana. That's fair, but fair means that it sucks. So in Constructed Hearthstone, this card sucks by itself. But with the more and more cards you have with Inspire, and if you're actually playing a deck themed around it, well, it's not just this that gets the bonus. Maybe it's, the Lowly Squire. Maybe it's, Sarad as well that's in play. And, when you have all these Inspire effects triggering at the same time, you can't really isolate each one of them. So that makes it so, yeah, the card might be okay. If Inspire Center decks, if Hero Power Center decks actually work out, playing a Hero Power that'll affect multiple triggers will be pretty damn good. So maybe this card might see some play in that sense. In Arena, of course, it'll be very good. Arena is a game mode that you often Hero Power quite a bit. Still, though, right now it is tempo driven, so you still don't Hero Power that much. But having a 3 mana 3/3, especially in the common slot, that might do something other than that as well, that's pretty damn good. So, yeah, very, very good Arena card again. And then we have the Tournament Medic. This card was released last night. It's a 4 mana, 1/8, and when you use your Hero Power, you gain 2 health. I mean, I guess if aggro decks were just running around with 1/1 creatures all the time, this card's pretty decent. But other than that, I don't really see it. I think this card could have been easily 3 mana, and it's 4 mana. And the difference between 3 and 4 mana is an enormous one. So this card seems really, 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 really bad unless things are so messed up in the game that you actually require creatures to deal with countless number of 1/1s. We're almost at that stage now, but not quite, and I don't see why that would become worse when every single card released in this expansion promotes slow and mid-range decks. And of course, we have the cool one, Wilford Fizzlebang. Wilford Fizzlebang in World of Warcraft was a character that introduced the second boss of, I think, Trial of the Grand Crusade. And he actually spawns Jaraxxus, and Jaraxxus kills him, and that's, I guess, Jaraxxus behind him. And it's pretty cool. He's that guy that you kind of hear in some of the Jaraxxus remixes. And he does have a pretty good interaction with Jaraxxus. 6 mana, 4/4, and cards that you draw from your Hero Power cost 0. You could play this Hero Power for 2 mana, get Jaraxxus, play Jaraxxus for free, and get a Dread Infernal for 2 mana. So you can do all of that on 10 mana, and that's really, really awesome. The card itself, it's really cool. I don't think it's particularly good, but it can be. If we see some really, really slow decks, I guess it's possible that this might see some play. It's kind of like Emperor Tharson, where it can be pretty good. It's a card you can just push on the board and maybe gain some advantage later on in the game. It's a little bit worse than Emperor because if you play this and don't Hero Power on the same turn, you basically get nothing. So it basically means that it's an 8-drop kind of. And that's been kind of the running thing with most Inspire cards. So just really, really, really slow. And if slow is okay, if slow doesn't get brutally punished like it is these days and has been the last few years of Hearthstone, then maybe it's okay. As it stands right now, even the slow Warlock decks probably average on 4 or 5-ish mana, like the Handlocks. So even in that sense, it's not really the best because you have no expectation of this card surviving one turn. And generally, high variance is not great in Hearthstone unless it's overpowered high variance. Is it overpowered high variance? I would argue that it is not. If you combo this guy with other cards that allow Hero Power multiple times each turn, maybe you can start talking about what's really good, but generally it just seems a little bit underwhelming. If you play this guy on turn 8 and you get just some garbage or some situational card, it doesn't really work out too well, and you'll probably just lose the game. I think this card might be good if handlock type decks can actually afford to be slower than they are today, and that might make it it's kind of like a tipping point. If the meta is really, really slow, this card is ridiculous. Because it's the value of his ability becomes so much higher, and there's a reasonable chance you actually get to play him. So it's like an exponential game. The slower the game gets, the way better Wilfred Fizzlebank will become. But in the current state of the game, this guy is pretty terrible. So we'll have to see which way things swing. I still really believe that we will see a big slowdown in the Hearthstone meta, but I think it'll be artificial just because all the cards that they've shown us so far are really slow and really have a lot to do with hero power combos, which again is a really slow theme. But nothing suggests that these type of decks will beat the existing decks. In fact, they will get totally destroyed. So people will realize this, hopefully not too quickly, and, well, things like Wilford, things like, well, most of the cards that we've seen so far will no longer be played. So we'll have to see. We have to really see how many more cards are going to change this dynamic. And, well, there's a lot left. We still have like 100+ cards yet to see. So maybe there's some hidden tools in there that will really make a realistic push towards slower decks. We'll have to see what happens. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.